Hey guys, welcome back. I'm gonna finish the 2012 Part B, question number 3, the horse barn problem. So here it says, write the horse barn method consolidate. The method consolidates the barn by moving horses so that the horses are in adjacent spaces starting at index 0 with no empty space between them. So I know you guys read this, so I'll rush through it. Well, not rush through it, but rush through reading this. So we want trigger, then we want silver right next to trigger, and then we want patches next to that, and Duke next to that, and then you want 3 nulls. So before I show you guys how to do this, just a friendly reminder is that this is how we swap. We have to place somebody into something to hold on to, and then we take the next guy and place it in there, and then we swap just like this. So I'm sure everybody remembers how to swap. But temp equals x equals y equals temp, and you can also do it with arrays just by adding, the number or the variable for the index. Okay, so think about this. Here I have trigger. He's fine, and there's no need to swap with anybody. Here I find a null. And then here I find silver. I need to put silver where the null spot is. So your first step is to find the null, find the space. Once that happens, you're going to swap. Now think about what's happening. Silver will go there, but then we have to fill him up with a null. Okay? So once we do that, we move along. So now, once we swap that, this is now, this is now null. And now I look at null and I look at null next to that one. See, you can't really swap this null with that null. That's just silly. So first you have to find the null, and then the second thing that you have to do is make sure there's no null next to it. Because what are you guys swapping here? Nothing. Same here. So you need to find the null, and then you need to swap it as long as there's a horse there. So the second person cannot be a null. So that's going to help us with this program. So it has to find the null and then no null next to it. We've seen something like this with the letter A and swapping the A, if you guys remember, but that's okay if you don't. So once I do that, I'm good to go. So let's take a look. Here I said, let s equals this dot space dot length because I just didn't want to keep writing it. That's all. So I said let I equal 0, I is less than s minus 1, I plus plus. So this is a for loop. We know we need a for loop to go through an array. I said if this dot space I equals null, that's your first step. This guy's your first step. Then you want to check the guy right next to him. In order to check a person right next to him, you're going to need a second for loop. I know I always say two for loops are for a two-dimensional array, but sometimes a double for loop is used to look at the first person and then the guy right next to him. So we need a second for loop here. So that's what this is for. I'm starting at the person next to the first index. And I'm going to go through all of this. So before I do that, I have to make sure that this person, the guy at J, is not a null. If the guy at J is not a null, then he's a horse. And so if the guy at J is not a null and the guy at I is a null, then we can swap them. So how do we swap them? We take this guy J, this horse right here, this guy J, and we place him into I. Once we place him into I, we need to fill up J with something, so I'm going to fill up J with null. And that's how we made the swap. Now, there's one really important thing that we need here that I didn't write down because I wanted to walk you through it. I need to sort of break this loop, and so we can keep going. So I don't want this for loop to keep looping around and keep doing this part until all of these guys are done. It wouldn't work properly. So what I want to do is I want this for loop to break. I know the only way that this for loop can break is if this is not satisfied. So what I'm going to do is right here, I'm going to write J is equal to this dot sample, sorry, not sample space. I almost said sample space. I'm thinking of statistics. This dot spaces dot length. And what this will do is it will break this for loop, and then you will go back to the upper for loop, and then you'll move on with your index. So it wouldn't be I equals 0 anymore. You'll go on to the next one, which is I plus plus, which is I equals 1, and then you'll check. So what will happen here is after you swap these two, and silver goes here, and null goes here, you're now going to start here and keep checking. Okay, I found the null. That null, I just got to make sure the person next to me is a horse, but it's not, and it keeps going. So it swaps, and then it breaks, and it goes to this guy right here. It swaps, and it breaks, and then it goes to this guy here. And that's how that works. So I hope it makes sense how I did this here. So this guy here is for the first person. I needed this part here because I won't go out of bounds. Remember, if you're swapping, don't go out of bounds. And then this part, first I have to find a location for the horse to fit in. And then once I do that, I have to make sure that other location is good to go. So I need to make sure the other person is a horse so I could put them in here. There's no point of swapping a null. And the way we did that is by using this part right here. Okay, leave a comment if you want a further explanation, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Take care.